In beach volleyball, instead of 6 players, there are only 2, so you have to connect. Go back to the very basics of volleyball and relearn it from the ground up one more time.
Hey, you lukewarm egoists. Subscribe to Suki. Or don't. Be a joke of a striker all your life if you want. Or be a strong egoist by subscribing right now. Your choice.
With the new Haikyuu movie announcements released, I thought now would be the perfect time to finally make a Haikyuu video. This is talking about the events that happened after the anime, so if you are an anime only, this is spoiler territory. You have been warned, now on with the video. And this is about my favorite mini training arc in Haikyuu, the Sao Paulo Challenger arc, which covers the story of Hinata's beach training arc in Brazil. However, in this video, I'm just focusing on the dynamic duo of Oikawa and Hinata in beach volleyball, from chapters 371 to 374. Before we even start to talk about it, we have to talk about what made the reunion between these two characters so special in the first place. Oikawa was a character introduced as a villain in the way of Karasuno meeting nationals. He is a character who captured the audience attention before he stepped into the match, in the training match. After seeing his story in the Summer Inter-High Nationals Prefecture qualifiers, he became the villain everyone wanted to win. However, throughout his entire tenure in middle school with Kitagawa Daichii and Blue Castle or Aoba Johsai, whatever you like to call them, he never once made it to nationals and never got to make it to the U19 youth training camp due to that. We last see him with talking panels and not just cameos in the pre-timeskip when he finally gets to see Ushiwaka lose to his junior Tobio Kageyama. Now for Hinata, in the spring qualifiers, Karasuno went on a magical run beating teams like Josanji, Rakunan, Blue Castle, and Shiratorizawa to make nationals, where they beat Tsukihara, a high contender team in Inarizaki, and their longtime rivals Nekoma. We get to see Bokuto and Akashi's backstory and resolve to win, and with Karasuno going on their dream run, you would think that the final would be Fukurodani versus Karasuno, student versus master, who becomes the number 1, with Karasuno beating some nobodies to get there after beating Kamomedai, and Fukurodani would have had to overcome the strongest team in the nation, Itachiyama, to bring the hype on their name, similar to how Karasuno brought it by beating Inarizaki. When reading, I thought this would have been the perfect time to sidecast Karasuno one last time and show the battle between the last members of the top 5 aces of a Tokyo Showdown rematch in nationals to let it occur and finally see what the strongest nation in Haikyuu was all about. However, everything seems to be going according to plan as Hinata hits an insane received back minus spike to finally regain the lead for Karasuno against Kamomedai in set 3. It feels like the momentum is finally going for Karasuno to take this win until Hinata falls, with all the readers' dreams and parlays sinking in despair. As Furodate makes Hinata perfectly convey emotions the audience is not ready to hear in vocals when the movie comes out. After that, we see that Itachiyama is eliminated by a random team, which throws another curveball at us, as it truly gives us the March Madness feeling that anything can happen. And it makes us realize that this was the final chapter where we would have a Haikyuu match before the time skip, as the only other match we could have seen in nationals was Fukurodani versus Itachiyama. And now that Itachiyama is over, our spring nationals tournament reading is over as well. In the time skip, we see that Hinata never wins nationals as they lost to Inarizaki in the 3rd round in year 2, and in year 3, they lost to Itachiyama in center court and then won their 3rd place matchup. This rushed off event was perfect from Furodate, as it brings more sad emotions just seeing all of their dreams crushed, only to further dig into that with rushing year 2 and 3 to show our crows never once soared to the pinnacle of Japan. It left me as a reader very shocked and sad, and then to put Hinata alone gives a sign that we might never see him return to Japan, or maybe he never plays with his allies or comrades again, as we will be introduced with new characters. We don't know what to expect, as it gives us a mixed feeling in our hearts that we don't know what to do with it yet. Furodate purposely pitted us with constant hits, sending us down as if we were in the fictional story ourselves. And then in chapter 371, we see Hinata trying to keep confidence and achieving his goals, on the beach. However, it's clear being in a new environment is starting to deteriorate Hinata emotionally to some degree, like being lost in the city and losing his wallet, and the beach being a whole new setting than indoor volleyball. It's starting to sink on him. The pressure of the sand is starting to make him sink down. Even though he tries to hide it to some degree, it's noticeable. Even for just a moment, the sand is taking its effect. He then hears a person speaking Japanese to notice the great king Toho Oikawa appear behind him. With that, a sense of relief and hope, tears running down my face as I read this chapter, and the pure hype that Oikawa had finally returned when the story had needed him most. With everything we knew and loved about Haikyuu feeling so distant, with all the twists and turns, Oikawa returned and everything felt alright again. In chapter 372, we see a selfie of Oikawa and Hinata that made me laugh for 5 minutes straight, bringing back all the happy memories of Haikyuu before all the drastic events occurred. Classic Furodate with his perfect comedic timing. Then of course we get the classic nicknames they have for each other, Shorty Pie and Great King. And when they meet, I love how Hinata dismisses the name Great King and just calls him Oikawa, signifying that Hinata has reached a higher status in his volleyball career. It also showed how well these two have grown, with both learning new languages, for Oikawa being Spanish and English, and for Hinata Portuguese and English. For Oikawa, we don't hear him speak Spanish, but it's the language of the Argentinians, so he better know how to speak Spanish. If not, he is in trouble. Then finally, during dinner, we finally get to see Oikawa's reason for being in love with volleyball, Argentina, and the manipulator setter we see throughout the story. As Oikawa talks about 38-year-old veteran Jose Blanco, who helped the ace return to top form in a game between Japan and Argentina, which is very cool to see as it's the same stadium Oikawa played his last volleyball match in high school. Even though the whole stadium erupted for the ace who returned to form, to Oikawa, the true star was the quiet setter, who slowly built the ace back up to form, the setter Jose Blanco. He gets his autograph and declares to his hero he will become a setter too. During his high school tenure, he had a chance to talk to him, thanks to Coach Irihata having a friend who was on the Tachibana Falcons, the V-League team Blanco was coaching. Oikawa then reveals that his determination in volleyball was wavering, so he went to Jose Blanco to meet with him. Jose Blanco tells him the following: "What are you saying? You know the limits of your abilities already? Even though you aren't finished growing, physically or mentally. Even though you haven't mastered all the skills you can master. If you're going to complain that someone born with more talent than you is and always will be better than you, no matter how hard you work, no matter how many tricks you learn, no matter how many great teammates you have, do that only after you have given the very best effort you can. But believing that this isn't all you've got and sticking to that belief will be a far and longer, tougher road for you to follow than simply throwing your hands up and declaring that you aren't gifted. So it doesn't matter." Right there and then he decided he wanted to learn under him. However, he had to go back to Argentina the very next year, which bumped up Oikawa's schedule to break into the foreign leagues much faster. The stage he will end up playing has not yet changed. We get to see Oikawa still acting like his Great King persona when Hinata challenges him to play beach volleyball. He gets completely humbled by the unforgiving sand. Then he retorts to his famous trait of looking for an excuse for why he isn't dominating, being a beginner. We then get Hinata's words that correlated with my emotions reading the manga at the moment. "Oi, Oikawa-san! Earlier today, for a minute, just for one short minute, I actually got kind of down and depressed. But seeing you has put me in a super duper extra awesomely good mood. Arigato, Oikawa-san! Oh, treat me out to lunch sometime then." This hits me so hard as I was returning to my new home where I didn't know many people or had many friends, but seeing my uncle, aunt, and niece, my baby niece, made my new home feel like what it's always been. It's the bonds between families and friends that makes us who we are, and without it, we start to feel lost. But it takes just one person to bring that hope back. That is what Oikawa did for Hinata and the readers. Then they get challenged by two randoms, Gabriel and Gino, thinking the Japanese duo are Chinese. Call them Jackie-chan. Then they pull out a legendary Japanese actor, Ken Watanabe. We get to see Oikawa struggle with this new environment and start to adapt to it at a faster rate than Hinata did. Since beach volleyball is 2v2, we really got to see Hinata put in a position of having to be a setter under certain circumstances. They lose the game and have to buy the winner's drinks. Hinata suggests they trade contact infos and proceeds to glaze Oikawa, something he hasn't received in so long. We then get to see how Hinata truly prepared for his trip in Brazil,
as he is an indoor junior local team, so being so used to the sand wouldn't wear him down on the court. We then get to see Oikawa address Hinata about how he built up all his skills only to set it aside and become a beginner again on the sand. Then we get to see more of Hinata's resolve and patience, stating no matter how hard or easy the skill is, getting good at something new is always fun.
In the rematch, we get to see Hinata get really used to receiving digs on the sand. In response, Oikawa adapts his setting to the wind, and the spiker being Hinata, making it just high enough to account for his hitter needing to get back up after the dig, also being just far enough from the net to give the hitter a clear view of the blockers, and of course it was adjusted perfectly for the win too. We get to see a bit of Oikawa's time in Club Atletico as the hard times really outweighed the fun, but yet without any rhyme or reason, from time to time the fun just hit out of nowhere, which kept pulling him forward. He thinks about how beach volleyball, instead of 6 players, there are only 2, so you have to connect. Go back to the very basics of volleyball and relearn it from the ground up one more time. Then we get to see the team switch sides after the 14-point mark, with Hinata being the defensive anchor with his digs, and we get to see classic Oikawa dump long range addition. He always seems to pull it off when you least expect it, giving the duo more options on attack to work with. Hinata then questions Oikawa if he has eyes in the back of his head, and he jokes around saying, "How did you know?" And then we get one of my top 2 Oikawa quotes. "It's important to watch what the opponent is doing, yeah? But you also have to keep in mind how they see you too." Challenge time! Oikawa removes himself from Hinata's vision to test to see if he can make a decent serve without knowing where Oikawa is and where he will arrive for the ball. Hinata does an okay job at making the ball reach Oikawa. Actually, he does a really good job. I could never. Oikawa states since it's just the 2 of them, they have to connect together. It would be a waste if they didn't try anything new. And they win 21-19, being rewarded with dinner. The fact that these 2 never learn Oikawa's name and think it's actually Ken Watanabe gets me every time. After this, we get to see the last 3 pages of Oikawa and Hinata before the Olympics together. As Oikawa is traveling back to Argentina, Oikawa calls him Shorty Pie, but changes it to Shoyo, finally saying his name to his face, showing that they have truly become friends and admitting his respects towards Shoyo. A true full circle from when Shoyo finally called the great king Oikawa in front of his face. Now Oikawa has done the same to Shoyo Hinata, calling him by his name and not the nickname he's always been giving him. Hinata thanks him for everything. Oikawa states, "No problemo. It was a pretty refreshing change of pace for me too. Heck, it felt like I had gotten a second chance to play volleyball for the first time. Arigato. Anyways, you're going back to Japan in 2 years, right?" "Yep." "Okay. Just remember, I'm gonna beat everyone. Be ready." "Sure. You're included in that too, you know. IRL. See you later," he says later again, being his last words in the manga before the finale special, and leaves with a peace sign. This was such an important mini arc as they both reaffirmed their beliefs and mottos through each other. Both of them went through so many losses when it mattered the most, but when their backs are against the wall, they remembered their roots of volleyball being fun and continue to thrive from the ground up. Roots connect with each other to bear fruit, and that's what Hinata and Oikawa did as they grew that tree and blossomed a victory for themselves, showing that even if they start all over from the ground up, it's just as fun the second time as it was the first time of learning the basics of volleyball all over again. The quote Oikawa gives to Hinata about keeping in mind how your opponents see you too gives me Metavision vibes on a smaller scale. I truly believe this line is what helped Shoyo Hinata become the ninja, the beach, and the court, as he doesn't move recklessly anymore or calmly blend in with the crowd with the anticipation of being the centerpiece of his team and forcing his way through by reacting to his opponents at the last moment. Now he controls not just the tempo of his team, not just the tempo of himself, but the whole court entirely. From the serve itself, the opening play, Hinata controls it all. For Oikawa, he was reliving his childhood dreams of playing volleyball for a second time. But most importantly, after going through the rough times in Argentina and the message he got from Jose Blanco, he finally got to have fun again. But the most important factor I want to talk about is how he relearned the motto embodied on him from Jose Blanco through the words and actions of Shoyo Hinata. There is so much I would love to talk about on this dynamic that I did in this video, but every video has to come to an end. I hope you all have a bigger appreciation for this mini beach art and the characters of Oikawa and Hinata, and learned or relearned something about them you didn't realize at first. Let me know how I did in my first Haikyuu video and how I can improve as a creator. I would love to make more Haikyuu videos in the future, so give me comment suggestions. I'll most likely do it on my second channel though, as this channel is mainly Blue Lock centric and would love to keep it that way. But in the meantime, until the next video, Tsuki out, stay blessed.